And all the sports, most all of us did. We had to have a ball team, you know. Wasn't that many kids in school, but he was a good ball player. I mean, for a small school. That was my best recollection of him.
I reckon the biggest thing that I remember is that time that he acted in one of the plays, and I don't remember the play, was Frankenstein. I thought, boy, that was really, he was a scary-looking character. When they played Frankenstein, boy, he was a tremendous actor in that one particular part. And that's one I always remember him of, as Frankenstein.
Well, I think about anything Jim set out to do, he would master if he wanted to do it.
In school, Jimmy also shows that he's talented in artwork and in acting. In his junior year, after a successful performance of Our Hearts Were Young and Gay, Adeline's drama students present her with an orchid. The next day, Jimmy asks for it back.
Jim came over and he pointed to it and says, "I want that." And I said, "Why, Jim?" He says, "Well, you'll find out at the end of the day." The next day he came in with the painting. So he said, "Now you'll have it forever." So this is my forever piece. And instead of signing Jim Dean, he puts "Her Pride," which is pretty sweet of him. I love that kid, and he loved me too, I know.
With Adeline's encouragement, Jimmy enters the Indiana State Dramatic Speaking Contest. Reading an excerpt from Charles Dickens' A Madman's Manuscript, Jimmy wins first prize, and the proud town of Fairmount puts his picture in the newspaper. 1949 is Jimmy's senior year in high school, and the last year that he will live in Fairmount. He has decided to move to California to pursue an acting career. In California, Jimmy enrolls at UCLA to major in theater arts. In their production of Macbeth, Jimmy wins the role of Malcolm. He is memorable in the part only because he plays Shakespeare with an Indiana twang. At UCLA, Jimmy becomes friends with Bill Bast after they meet on a double date.
He was in a fraternity, had pledged a fraternity. And it seemed quite unlikely to me that he would be fraternity material, but I was not in a fraternity. I was living in a dormitory, and I didn't like it. So he said, "Well, why don't you pledge my fraternity?" So he arranged for me to come and have lunch, and I hated every minute of it. It was very uncomfortable. And he was serving tables to pay for his way at the fraternity. The next thing I knew, he got into a terrible fight with everybody at the fraternity, and there was a bust-up in the dining room, not when I was there, and he got thrown out. So we went out one evening, and he said, "I got to find a place to live, and you don't like the dormitory. What do you say we move in together?" And I was happy to be out of the dormitory, but I was terrified of the idea of living with this sort of slightly strange and unpredictable kind of person. But we looked, we rented this little penthouse-like apartment, and those were very, very lean days while we were in school. I got a job ushering at CBS, and he needed some work, so I got him onto the ushering staff, which was hard enough to do. It took me 6 months to get on. And he lasted all of 2 weeks. He just got everybody's back up very quickly, and the boss hated him. So he was fired within 2 weeks.
The following months will be spent borrowing money to pay the rent, using candles for light to help keep electricity bills low, and for dinner, eating oatmeal.
It was very difficult, and food was hard to come by. And at one point, my mother decided to make a trip out to California to visit, and I cannot tell you what a boon that was. We ate for a month while she was with us. She didn't think much of the trip. By the time she left, she had been reduced to tears a number of times by being left alone in that place with Jim, who was quite uncommunicative and surly, and didn't want to be bothered and didn't want to have someone else around. It was kind of cramped quarters for everybody. He was also very, very active in terms of artistic inclinations. He couldn't sit still. He was constantly creating something, some way, all day long, every day, every night, constantly working, doing something. You'd come home and there was this thing, this mobile hanging there. There'd be a new piece of sculpture. There'd be a new sort of, he was very good at cartoon, grotesque cartoon caricatures kind of thing. Very unpleasant stuff, most of it, very macabre and very black humor. And I led him to say, like, Henry Miller. He had never heard of Henry Miller. And the next thing we knew, we were into a period of utilizing all of Henry Miller's sort of sexuality. So now we'd find there would be a lot of suggestive forms around the house. And here was Mom, okay? So it was a little difficult for Mom to confront all of these things, and they weren't hitting it off too well. And by the time she left, he drove us down to the railroad station to say goodbye, and I thought, you know, he's probably very relieved to see her go, except for the food, and she probably can't wait to get on